Hello, in this video we're going to talk about some basics of internet, web servers, and DNS. So there are three terms that you need to know about, and that is domain name, IP address, and DNS. So let's say you type in a domain name in the browser of your choice. So let's say you go open a Google Chrome and you type in www.village88.com in the domain name. Now, first thing that happens is the internet looks up what's called a DNS, which basically stands for domain name space, and it finds out which computer is hosting information for village88.com. So it matches the domain name, and it finds out what the IP address of that site is, for example. And let's say village88, it has a IP address of 193.50.25.53.1. I just made that up. And this is basically the address that locates exactly where that computer that hosts information for village88 is, and then it sends you to this computer. Now this computer gets the information and then it processes your request. So it seems like they know that you were wanting the main page of village88, so they get that information and then send that back, and that's what you see on your website. So it's pretty straightforward, and it's really nothing more complicated than that. So let's say, for example, you want to add you buy a domain. So new domain, you buy this domain. What you need to do is you need to set this domain to point to the right server. So let's say you also get a hosting account, and now you need to have this point to the new hosting account. So what you do is you go to the DNS and you configure that setting. So you basically tell the internet, when someone types in newdomain.com, I want them to go to, for example, my server at hostmonster. So you would have it either point directly to the IP address of that computer in your hostmonster account, or you can say the information is hosted with hostmonster. So I'm going to set the domain name server as ns1.hostmonster.com, and hostmonster.com takes care of that information, and since they're hosting your server, they know which computer is hosting that info and point the user to the right computer. When you go into for example, http://localhost, when you set up your local WAMP server or MOMP server if you're using a Mac, we're gonna have this point to your own computer, and then your own computer's IP address, I believe, is actually, I can't remember, but let me actually look that up right now. Okay, I just googled it, and the local host, your local computer's IP address is 127.0.0.1, and that indicates that's your own computer's IP address. And so when you set up your own local computer, you're going to be able to access the web directory in your local computer by going to this directory after you set up WAMP or MOMP if you're using a Mac again. So these are the things that you need to know. You can set up the DNS to add a lot more settings. For example, you can have it so that let's say village88.com points to that IP address. Let's say I set up a wiki for village88.com, and I want this to point to a different server hosted at Amazon EC2 cloud, for example, and let's say the IP address for that is 125.0.3.1, and we can set that up all in the DNS setting. And usually wherever you buy the domain, you can either configure the DNS setting directly, or if you're hosting that domain and if you set the name server to point to that server, then you can manage the DNS setting in that server as well. So it becomes a lot more clear when you buy a domain, when you buy a hosting account, and when you have to set up the DNS. But basically, this is how the internet works. It's just a bunch of computers that are connected, and whenever you put in a domain name, the registry basically points the user, to the right computer for it to display the info.